everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into Queensland's mineral exploration and development leases using three interactive dashboards. But before we get into it, I'm just going to touch on the presentation summary here. Okay, so we're going to be touching on Queensland's mining tenure system, and talking about entering a major renewal cycle between 25 and 2030, analysing the expiry year and of leases to sort of see when the downturn is and when more exploration companies are bringing out more leases. So this will be critical minerals today that we'll be touching on. We'll be looking into exploration activity, um, looking into what is sort of happening in the Queensland market for critical minerals and coal. Development leases, we'll be talking about how many coal development leases there are in relation to critical minerals within the Queensland mining industry. Number four, the renewal lodgement data. We'll be looking at how many leases have no renewal filed, and then we'll talk a little bit about native titles. We'll touch on that, where that fits in. We'll talk about strategic opportunities and who the big market players are within this industry. Hope you enjoy. Exploration permits dashboard. We can see that there's a lot of active leases there, 2,166 expiring between, and then we're looking at that expiry between 2025 and 2030, which is quite high there. So if I want to go granted here as well, we're going to put that on. And we're going to have a bit of a look at who these big players are here with exploration permits. So we can see that Mount Isa Mines is massive, Anglo Gold, Mount Cuthbert Resources, and so forth. With Rio Tinto down here, we can have a look at who these leases are, expiry year, approval year, has it trended up in the form of approval year and expiry year. Okay, so this is the power of dashboards here to drive data-driven decision making. Approvals trend upwards from the 1980s through to the 2010s. Okay, so we can see that there it trends up there. The number of operator approvals for exploration permits in coal and critical minerals within the Queensland market. Expiry years cluster heavily around 2025 to 2030. So I've got that filter on here and we can see that. So, you can see that it's pretty close here, we're in 400s, high threes, and there's a lot of leases sort of expiring there, coming up within this particular period. Now, if I want to go back here and get the full picture here for expiry year, so I can see here that pre-25, there was, nowhere near as many expiry leases as what's coming up here. So this could be to do with, this includes coal as well, could be to do with some coal being phased out. But, if we want to just go back and have a look here from 25 to 2030 with the leases expiring in this particular data set, major holders here, as I mentioned, Mount Isa Mines, Anglo Gold, etc. Development leases dashboard next we'll get to. I'll just quickly click on some of these players so you can have a bit of a look at how they've sort of performed. So trended up. It's forecasted there a 95% confidence interval as to what's going to happen with Mount Isa Mines in the form of expiring leases moving forwards. So, and then you have a look here, you can see the native title, what have they got permission on what particular lease. All right, so next here, I'm going to go into Queensland mineral development leases. So that was the exploration leases. So that's mining companies in the minerals and coal sector looking, looking for the commodity to extract from the ground. Now, this is sort of the development based phase. They're developing particular lease. It's a sort of phase before production, if you like. Production really gives you an idea as to how much we're producing as an economy and as a country. Mineral development leases sort of in between exploration and production. So if we have a bit of a look here next, I can go, okay, permit status. So have they applied for the development lease or is it granted? Okay, so I want to go granted. I want to know what's going on with granted. Renewal, we don't need to worry too much. Okay, so there's 184 leases sitting here. Okay. Um, so okay, approval year and expiry year. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to go expiring 2025 again to 2030. Okay, so then that sort of gives us a bit of a picture there as to what's going on. All right, so total leases here in the development sector. You can see coal dominates here, 118 to minerals with 43. And top development leaseholders here, Queensland Energy Resources, Wandoan Holdings, City Gold is pretty big as well. And then Constellation Mining, okay, Peabody usually up there as well. So it gives you a bit of an idea there as to who's really developing a lot in this particular sector. If I go here, you can see Queensland Energy Resources. These are the leases here. Expiry year, type of mine. Because if you know the periodic table and you know different types of commodities, you can work out what sort of mine it is in the mineral sector based on this. So that there gives us a bit of an idea as to sort of what that kind of looks like in the development lease sector. Next here, this just goes into the same thing, just with a little bit more, um, you know, of an idea around, renewal. So there's currently 139 leases that don't have a renewal, um, and then 59 that have a renewal lodged in the development lease space for minerals. Total lease numbers by commodity, once again, 141 here to coal, 57 to minerals. So if I go coal here, who are the big players? Wandoan Holdings, Constellation Mining, Peabody. If I look at minerals, we're looking at Queensland Energy Resources, City Gold, and Summit Resources there. Okay, we can see that there's 51 of these being granted, and there's 6 there with an application. Right. And that sort of gives me a breakdown. If I just want to go in and see any individual, like in company, I can click on them and go, okay, well, what have these guys got here for energy resources? Okay. And I can have a bit of a look at, the lease number, where these are sort of sitting, etc. Okay. Um, so you might be asking, why does this information matter for the sector, investors, and economy? Peak expiry years. Click over here. Um, equals major industry turning point. With many leases expiring between 2025 and 2030, this signals a period of transition, renewal negotiations, potential production slowdowns, increased competition for new areas. This is a huge insight for analysis or analysts predicting future output within this particular market. Commodity mix shows Queensland's strategic focus. Coal remains the heavyweight when we look at the total number of leases. Now, we're not taking into account production levels with this, it's just leases. But the minerals category includes copper, zinc, rare earths, and industrial minerals. This aligns with battery metals growth, EV-based supply chains, and global mineral demand. Okay. So if we look at the concentration of ownership, okay, so who has the most uh, amount of leases in the exploration um, uh, sector? Mount Isa Mines dominates exploration, and you can see that here. Okay, you can see that their number of approval leases is increasing. It's been trending upwards since down here in 1992, where they had 3, and then all the way up here to 24, where they had 17 new exploration permits or leases. Um, so Um, this indicates, and then, we've also got energy resources over here in the development lease, where they have performed really strong over time as well. Basically, this indicates market influence, strong regional footprints, high barriers to entry for new players. Native title data shapes approval timelines. So it's important to indicate over here what is the native title data looking at for um, these particular mining companies. Okay, so an agreement is reached here, for example, it's private here, Section 31 agreement granted. Um, granted with native title, protection conditions. So, some of these look like there's a lot of agreements here, which is, I guess good for these guys that, want to, um, explore and, do more projects. But basically, you want to have a look at where that sort of sits, because somebody can have a lot of leases, but if they don't have a lot of approval, or the approval duration, the environmental requirements and project feasibility timelines aren't strong, then that can make them lag in the market. Renewals will impact future production capacity. A large group of leases nearing expiry without renewal. This sort of, if they don't get a renewal and, it's not granted. So if we come over to here, for example, if we're looking at people with note that are granted with none in terms of the renewal, or if I just go away from granted and just go none for renewal, and I look at coal here, these are sort of the companies that are going to get affected by that. Land subject to native title, excluded from the permit area. So, that can all affect profitability, revenue, energy within the economy, broader economy. Um, so this can also signal possible relinquishment of the lease, may open land for new operators. This is a leading indicator of future mining activity zones within this particular region. So if you're thinking, now what? Investors, companies, and policymakers should use this information to track expiry and renewal patterns closely. 25 to 2030 is the critical window. Stakeholders should monitor renewal lodgement timing, pending application backlogs, regions with concentrated expiries. This data can predict project drop-offs or surges. Companies should prepare for competitive leasing cycles with high expiry numbers, as we're sort of seeing here in that 25 to 2030 period, for both development and especially exploration here. Um, this means that new exploration opportunities will open, strong competition for mineral rich land, strategic consolidation likely among smaller holders. Investors should watch mineral leases for battery metals, so copper, zinc, and other energy transition minerals appear heavily in mineral leases. This indicates long-term demand, strong future project pipelines, Queensland positioning itself for global mineral supply chains. Now, the next point I want to make, with this data, is policymakers can use this to prioritize infrastructure for hotspots for mining activity. Okay, so that's when we sort of start to get into more mapping over here. Okay, we can have a look at the historical based leases here in Queensland, on what particular site. Um, so this gives you the hotspots of mining activity, transport needs, energy and water requirements, First Nation engagement areas, and then this then leads to um, you know better planning, faster approvals, and stronger economic outcomes. Okay, so I can go in and I can have a look at the leases here, that are expiring between 2020, or that expire between 2000 and 2025 for historic exploration leases here in Queensland. Okay, I've got a fair few blanks here in this data set, so I don't know every single one, but out of the companies that I know, I can go in here and have a look at where these guys finished up. If I'm working the mining industry and I have operations in a particular area, say around Charters Towers, for example, for minerals. This then sort of allows me to sort of see what leases have been used previously. Um, so ongoing updates will improve forecast accuracy by refreshing this dashboard regularly. We can track new lease approvals, renewals, commodity direction changes, corporate consolidation. This becomes a living forecast model for Queensland mining. If you found this analysis useful, hit like and subscribe. If you want me to break down individual commodities, companies, or regions in more detail, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.